I totally apologize. Jesse, can you hear me now? Je- Jesse, I totally apologize. That I again, sometimes these audio problems we can't figure out, but as long as you can hear me, okay. So let me kind of go back a little bit. Once again, I apologize if you guys are coming in late, and to Jesse and to Keisha and to Jacques. I apologize if you couldn't hear me before. And but let me kind of go back a little bit. Some of this might be a review for I know Jacques and some of you might be involved in the online class or on ground class as well. So some of this might be a little bit of review for some of what Kim was talking about before. But let me just kind of go back for a second here and let's talk a little bit for the online students. Remember that the discussion that you have to have for this week is kind of going back into your own history and telling Kim and I a little bit about your it history with publishing, basically. Like, what's new with technology? I mean, do you guys watch uh modern television these days, or do you even rent DVDs, or do you do this all online? And that's kind of the discussion is for this week, is to tell Kim and I a little bit about your history and tell us, like, what is the future of the industry? Do you think that everything will go all online with, like, Netflix, or do you think there's still a market for hard copy CDs? I could tell you, just even going through my own classes at UCF, I could tell you that there's a lot of people that don't even have an intention these days of ever renting or buying a CD. They're gonna get all their stuff through iTunes, basically. And do you see that as the future? I mean, like, what do you think about that? So that's kind of this discussion for this week for the online students. And so let's talk a little bit though about Project 3, which is for both the online and on ground students. And some of this might be, again, might be a review for some of you that on the on ground class that Kim talked a little bit about this, but let's go over some of the details about this again. Okay, so one of the things to remember is when Kim did her version of Project 3, right? She had a publisher already in mind, right? So she had written a few books, and some of her books were published with McGraw Hill, but she said, well, wait a minute. Actually, I want to take a step back here and I want to learn how to self publish, right? Because that's the class that she was teaching, and that's one of the things that she wanted to kind of be versed up on. With her latest book, she said, like, look, I have a history with publishing that's good, but I want to know how I can explain this to students. So what she did is she went and self-published her book, right? And now at the time, her book was based on a history figure called Countess Elizabeth Bathory, or Urshabet Bathory. And she was a very, very popular figure. She's been featured in movies in the 1970s called, like, Countess Dracula. There's another movie called Daughters of Darkness. She's based on the if you're fans of, like, Snow White, right? The evil stepmother is based on her because she always looks in the mirror and she's obsessed with her appearance in the mirror. And there's also a few movies in the 1990s. I forget the name of them offhand, but anyway, so she's a very, very popular figure, and that's what Kim's book is about. And around this time, and this is like 2009, right? Vampires were very popular. The Twilight movies were coming out, and true crime accounts were coming out, and so this is a very, very popular book, right? So Kim, what she did And also, here's a little bit of a background of this character. So her name is Airship Bathory, and she's alleged to have killed over 650 people, right? And she was, according to history, she was this lesbian vampire serial killer who killed over 650 victims, and she had them walled alive in her tower. And basically, though, a long story short, though, Kim did the research on this, and one of the things that makes Kim's books like really, really, really extremely intelligent is that she actually went and she did an examination of the court records, right? So this is like the first time ever that this book got translated into the court records, right? So long story short, what Kim found is that a lot of this stuff, like, you see here, this 650 victims, a lot of this stuff was kind of overblown, and it was really not accurate. And so that story kind of got overblown a little bit. But nonetheless, though, that's one of the big selling points of Kim's book, is that she was the first person ever to actually go through the court records and translate that book into English, which nobody had ever done, right? So that's kind of the big selling point for her book. And then, of course, with Kim's book too, you know, she was able to also send, email announcements out. She created a Facebook page. Let me actually show you guys this, if you want. Well, actually, I apologize. I don't have the. Oh, actually, well, there's the link for Amazon if you want to buy the book. But then also, Kim has a Facebook page. It's called, I think it's just called CountessBathory.com, I think. But you can actually do a Google search on that if you want. But basically, what you guys want to do for your project, for project 3, is that you do want to set up like an official fan page, whether it's Facebook or it's Twitter. Once again, Kim and I are not going to judge. We're not going to say like, oh, well, that's a bad page or anything like that. But we do want you to set up an official page, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or MySpace or whatever it might be, and we want you to see how you guys do this for Project 3, right? And also, what Kim and I want to emphasize to you is that, okay, so Kim showed you how she's going to do project 3. So where will your project go, right? So tell us how you are going to develop your project 3, and tell us how you're going to make $1 million. And then also you can give you can give Kim and I a royalty check for showing you how to do this. I'm just kidding, but but just tell us where your project 3 will go. So does that make sense to Jesse and Jacques and to Keisha? Do you get a sense that where we want to see your project 3 go? You're gonna tell us how you're gonna make $1 million, right? Okay, so Jesse says, so part of the project is to make a real page. Well, no, you don't have to make like a real fan page, but just explain how you would go about doing that, if that makes sense. I mean, yeah. So definitely Jesse and Jacques and Keisha, tell Kim and I how you are going to make $1 million, right? This is your $1 million project, right? So tell us how you're going to set up your page and set up your project. And I can also tell you that for almost everybody's project too, I mean, you guys did a really, really good job. Both the in-class and on-ground students, I mean, you guys did a really, really good job in kind of explaining that. So there's Jacques. And then also let's go over the discussion questions for the on ground students. Remember, for you on can't or online students, remember you don't have to do this. This is just for the on campus students. Um, the attendance questions. Okay, so number one, actually, you know what? Well, let me jump ahead here a second here. And actually, before we even get into the on campus attendance questions, let me just kind of go over some of the things that Kim talks about in her last book. The latest chapters is socialnomics, right? So this one guy, Eric Coleman, he actually wrote a book in 2009. Actually, he actually has a couple of updated versions if you want to check those out. I think in 2013, 2014. So he's got some updated versions about this. But one of the things that he talks about is socialnomics, right? The idea that I know that you guys had Ken's class before, and I know that Ken talked a little bit about how you can actually make money these days doing socialnomics, right? Because about 5 years ago, everybody thought that, like, if you had any kind of project, whether it was a book or was a film or was it a TV show, whatever it might be, you could not really make money. Like, you could not really advertise. But what has happened in the last 5 years, and that what Eric Coleman talks about, is how you can actually set up um, a web page and you can actually make money off that web page, even if it's tied to your book, right? And so he talks about how the internet is actually revolutionizing the economy these days, right? And again, I don't want to go into a lot of detail about this because I know that, like, some of you in class students, I know that Kim talked about this yesterday, but if you're really interested in how you can make money doing this stuff as a self-publishing author, or when I say author, I'm not just talking about books, but I'm talking about, like, films, television shows, music, etc. Study this person. Her name is Amanda Hawking, and she was able to kind of, in her own way, make a lot of money, because what happened was that she was kind of the self-publishing author, and she did exactly what you guys are doing for projects 1 and 2, right? She went to an agent. She could not find an agent that would accept her. She went to different publishers. She could not find anybody that accepted her, right? But she said, okay, well, guess what? I'm going to do it myself. And she did exactly what you guys are doing for project 3. She said, okay, I'm going to set up my own website. I'm going to set my own page. I'm going to sell my books the old-fashioned way, doing it myself. And guess what? Now, these days, she's a multimillionaire. In fact, her latest book is actually it's being adapted by the same guy that adapted District 9 from last year, and now she's like a multimillionaire. So she's doing exactly what you guys are doing for Project 3. And like I said, if she can do it, you guys can do it definitely as well, right? And then Jacques says, okay, can I consider self-publishing a DVD version of the television? Absolutely, Jacques.